are living in a new world, and we are interconnected in a way we have never been before.
Politicians need to come down to the ground, see the people themselves.
Well, with Misconception, we knew we wanted to do something a little different, and we had the support creatively to go in a slightly different direction. So the film is extremely story-based, to the point where there's three main stories that are almost might seem standalone, but that they reverberate against each other. So we only have one expert in the film, Hans Rosling, who's a really fantastic personality, as well as someone who really understands data and what we can get from it. So he is a thread that goes through the film. But I guess the idea is to find ordinary people who are kind of on the front lines of these demographic shifts, whether they realize it or not, and to find the universal in the personal. I guess that's the way to say it. But we found really strong stories. I'm really happy with the balance and the difference between them. And the most painful thing in the process was just trying to trim them down so that they could live together in the same film.
New Scandal, next Thursday, 10/9 Central on ABC.
All you have to do is say yes.
Grey's Anatomy, Farewell to Christina, new next Thursday on ABC.
Well, I think there's been a lot of more creative freedom that you can see on TV right now, just looking at the different kinds of shows that are produced, the strength of the writing, and just stylistically, there's so much more openness. So as a documentarian primarily, going into that world, it feels more comfortable to know that there's not just one way that you're supposed to do things. Because, you know, in documentary, you're constantly shifting the way you tell stories based on whatever it is that is in front of you. So I find that that's a very exciting thing, and it's helpful. But what I also like is that in TV, oftentimes you get to, you know, play with toys that you don't get to usually do on documentaries, but it makes you think in different ways, just visually, how you can tell a story, you know, a nonfiction story, using kind of more narrative techniques, whether it's, I mean, I've used animation quite a bit, but I've also, you know, used different, you know, lenses and types of equipment and jib arms to just, you know, create mood more in a way that I might not have thought of so much if I didn't have the opportunity to work in the narrative side of things so much. Maybe narrative is the wrong word, because everything, I mean...
Everything's narrative.
Everything's narrative,
So
right? Yeah.
Fiction and nonfiction.
Yeah, scripted, you know, nonfiction and scripted maybe is the way to say it.
Maybe, yes.
I do meet people who are scared about population growth, but they haven't understood. You don't need to control population numbers. This is a myth.
Well, I think music in some ways, and like when I first got started in documentary, it was unfortunately kind of almost the afterthought, because you ran out of money, you ran out of time, and so you'd kind of cut and then look for music to put on top and kind of make it work. If you were lucky, you had a composer that could come in for a little while. Now it's the point where on a film, as soon as I have material to show, I try to bring in the composer, and so it's much more of a back and forth. I love cutting to music, and I think audiences too expect more out of documentaries in terms of not production value in a slick way, but just in the thoughtfulness and how the pieces have to be part of a whole. And so with music too, there's so many chances to get really talented people who will be able to really bring something to the table. So I enjoy that in the same way I enjoy, say, working with animators. You're working with another independent creative mind who is, you know, coming in, and when you get like a new cue, it can be like, oh my God, it's Christmas. You know, it's very exciting to see that, you know, new thing kind of bringing life into whatever you're working on. And I also love the back and forth of being able to say, you know, I want something here, and then trying to cut to that, and then being able to really work back and forth so that, you know, you get something in the end that you wouldn't have been able to imagine at the beginning.